and welcome to another episode of Speak, Film, and Enter, a podcast where we review and rank movies. I'm Nate.
And I'm Dylan.
And I'm Adam.
Yes, the mysterious one in the middle there is Adam.
Just something. I don't know.
Yeah. And today we've got the June Roundup for you. Once a month. You know, we review a lot of new movies here, mostly new movies, but we also watch a lot of other things as well. So once a month, we like to take this opportunity on the Roundup and talk about the other things we watched that they might be brand new and we didn't get to a review yet, or just anything else that we've watched over the month that we think is noteworthy. And we split those into 4 categories to give it some kind of structure. Dylan, do you want to break down what the 4 categories are?
Indeed, I will. The 4 categories of the Roundup episodes are favorite new watch, favorite rewatch, dud of the month, and movies that we just need to talk about for any reason.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So who wants to go first?
No, that's yeah. We usually just switch it up. Let's have Nate go first this time.
I'll go first.
Okay.
I was just about to volunteer myself, but it's nice that Dylan did that for me.
Yeah. There you go. I took that burden off of your shoulders.
Right. Okay, so I've got 2 new watches that I gave 4 out of 5 stars to.
Okay.
And the first one that I want to talk about is a movie from, what is his name? I know his name. The director, Pablo Larraín. Same director as Spencer.
Okay. Oh, nice. All right.
And that is Jackie, starring Natalie Portman. And a whole host of other people, but specifically starring Natalie Portman as Jackie Kennedy in the days immediately following her husband's death.
Yes, I remember when this came out, heard a lot of good things about it.
Yeah, so kind of day of, like, as it happens, and like just the 3 days or so immediately after it. And this is a movie, it also does operate in like kind of a couple different timelines. Okay. So they're kind of going forward from that event, but then they're flashing back to, you know, obviously we weren't alive during this, but my parents both remember this vividly, like everybody watching this, when she gave a tour of the White House over like TV. It was recorded for television, and I think nobody had ever done that before, and it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And so they actually recreate this very closely. Like they built the set for this is kind of crazy. I watched some of the extras. Nice. And they have Natalie Portman like reenacting exactly like this TV interview and tour that she gave of the White House. And so it's kind of that, and her talking about how she wants to remind everybody that like this is a place of people and there's like real people who live here, and how she's kind of trying, like that was her decorative style of trying to kind of like maintain our history. And it's a really interesting movie. It's also one that I can 100% see a lot of people saying they think is really boring.
Okay. Yeah.
Kind of like Natalie Portman. Yeah, more so than Spencer. In terms of how dull people might find it. Also just because there's kind of an expectation here, at least for an American audience, of like, oh, it's right, it's going to be fast paced and hectic and chaotic, and it's not that really at all. But it focuses a lot on like identity and legacy and kind of self and like who you are versus how history remembers you versus like your title. And that's kind of why it's interesting, where it juxtaposes like the tour and how she viewed decorating the White House with kind of what's happening immediately after, where she's suddenly, I knew this, but I never thought about it this way before, where like her husband died, and then like 10 minutes later, she wasn't even the first lady anymore, and then she had to move out of her house.
Wow, yeah, I guess
I knew all of those things, but I never thought about it in that specific way. And she's doing all these things as the first lady, but she's also just Jackie Kennedy, the person. And you start to see the types of relationships that she has with people that are purely due to her position and her title. And then the types of relationships that are actually real and are going to continue on once she's moved out and kind of been forgotten in the public sphere. And there are some that look like she's really close with kind of the White House decorator because she's doing all these things. But then like once she's out, and what's her name? Lyndon Johnson's wife. I can't remember her first name, which I kind of feel bad about, but also
oh god, it's right on the tip of my tongue. It's
I know, hold on. I might
Lady Bird.
No, isn't it?
It's Lady Bird Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah. Claudia Alta.
Right.
Lady Bird Johnson.
Right. You are right. I thought she had like a. I mean, I was searching for her real first name.
You want to know?
Claudia
Well,
Alta.
everyone called her Ladybird, and I know that
know.
because in King of the Hill, Hank Hill names their family dog Ladybird after former First Lady Ladybird Johnson.
There you go. You learned something from Mike Judge.
I did.
Yeah.
All right. Continue.
And then kind of when she comes in, then all of a sudden the decorator's not talking to Jackie anymore because it's not. It's just a really fascinating take on this story, and I really like. We've talked about on this podcast before how the kind of birth to death biopics are just so tired at this point, but I really like what Pablo Larraín does, where he takes a very specific moment in somebody's life and like dives right into it and uses it as kind of a representation of who they were, but also it's just this specific moment too, so it doesn't play out like this just sort of laundry list of like, or this checklist of events.
You can have scenes where they're just living in their life.
You just get more of a look at like the person who they were instead of like
much more character
if it's done right. Yeah.
So I mean, I would recommend this to both of you guys. Dylan for sure. I think just with your like of like kind of historical.
Yeah,
movies,
I feel like I'm already intrigued. Also
Natalie Portman's phenomenal, and the score is amazing. This movie is really good. I just think the people who only see franchise movies in the movie theater are probably not going to like this movie.
Okay,
I fully understand this isn't for everybody, but I think you guys would enjoy it.
If you're somebody who liked Spencer, would you recommend this?
100%. If you like Spencer, I would recommend this.
Okay.
But it's more, I feel more confident saying if you like Jackie, you'll like Spencer than the other way around.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
Just because, just kind of the expectation. And like I said, this might just be for American audiences of like, but now that you've seen Spencer and kind of know what to expect, I think you'll be fine.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. All right.
The other one I wanted to talk about is another period piece that I had never seen before, but had kind of always been on my list because I really like Russell Crowe. And that is Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World.
Right. We talked about this
okay. You finally watched it.
I did watch it. Gave it 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. It's really different than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Okay. In what way?
There's big naval battles and stuff, but like they also go to the Galapagos Islands and like research animals. Like there are themes in this movie it's far more than just a military historical movie. And that's where it surprised me. And just kind of I'm trying to find what I wrote about it. But
while you look for that,
I saw it in theaters when it came out. That's the only time I've ever seen it. But it has still stuck with me to this day because of like a couple moments, but one scene in particular where the boy has to have his arm or leg amputated.
Oh, yeah.
That one really stuck with me for obvious reasons, but I just remember it being like, it was just like well put together. Like it was just like a high quality freaking movie. Like you said, it's not just military stuff.
I only saw this once, and it was after it came out. It wasn't in theaters, so it was back in 2003 when it came out. And I gotta say, I don't remember a whole lot besides thinking like, oh, there wasn't as many like big fights as I thought there'd be.
Right, and that's what I mean. Where like, and the ones that they do have, there's really just like 2, and they're really well done. But it's like a 2-hour and 15-minute movie, and yeah, that's where I liked what they did with the themes in this movie a lot. Where you kind of have this like old commander with an old ship being chased by like new technology, like a bigger, better ship that they just like can't compete with. Yeah, and then that's where it sort of weaves in nicely with Paul Bettany's character as kind of the doctor and the scientist, who's really, really good.
Yeah.
How it ends up being about like keep learning and keep exploring, and like that's how you stay relevant and don't fade off. And that relates right back to kind of this view of like the future's coming crashing towards them in terms of like this ship and the new technology, and it could possibly destroy them if they don't adapt. And they do by going to the Galapagos Islands and exploring all these things, and then it gives them an idea that they're able to use to win at the end.
Yeah.
And I really liked how that was weaved together. And maybe my favorite piece of music ever is Yo-Yo Ma's rendition of a Bach piece.
Okay.
And they have that playing while they're like looking out the ship at the Galapagos Islands at like all these, at this point, undiscovered species. And it's just a beautiful scene. And I was just like, what am I watching? I thought this was like a war movie, but like,
yeah,
you know, and that was it. And it was just so much more than I thought it was going to be.
And when was this made?
2003.
2003.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like it was probably in that era where there were a lot of big historical epics that weren't very good or very memorable. And this one I feel like went kind of under the radar, but I'm not surprised
something
that
different too. It's not as militaristic as like, I mean, there's not much fighting as like Gladiator or Braveheart.
Yeah. It was nominated for 10 Oscars, and it won Best Cinematography and Best Sound Editing. But it was also up for Best Picture, Director, Film Editing, Art Direction, Set Decoration, Best Costume Design, Makeup, Sound Mixing, and Visual Effects. So,
wow.
So basically every technical award imaginable.
Yeah. I totally forgot this got about that many Oscar nominations. I really need to rewatch this now.
Yeah, I think it's really, really good. So those are the two.
Find it on streaming.
And then, of course, RRR, but I figured, I mean, we've
discussed
that before.
RRR, just go see it. It's a blast.
Yeah, that's on Netflix.
Not even go see it. Just watch it on Netflix.
Watch it on Netflix at home this weekend with a beer in your hand. It'll be a great time.
It'll actually be
Master Commander is streaming on HBO if you are curious. So
it is. That's where I watched it.
Nice. All right. Adam, do you want to go next?
Sure, I can go next. What were you gonna say, Nate?
I was gonna say we can get some of these banners up here.
There we go.
I didn't do the new one.
We all forgot.
Yeah. So my best new watch was actually a new movie. I'm trying to catch up on Stranger Things, so I didn't get to a lot of movies this month, which is typical for me.
And it's the middle of summer, or it's I get it.
In the throes. We'll call it the throes of summer.
The throes of summer.
Just about to hit basically the end.
Not yet the dog days.
Yeah, not yet.
That's August.
Yeah.
So my best new watch was Top Gun Maverick.
Hard to argue with that.
I gave it a 4. I thought, I mean, we gushed about it when we reviewed it, and I know this is typically for stuff we didn't talk about, but Top Gun Maverick did everything right. It comparatively to the first one. It has a through line. It's got a mission that matters. It's got characters that matter. The shots are amazing. The cockpit shots, all the aerial battles, they actually improved a lot of that. Tom Cruise is at his best.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't able to be on the Top Gun Maverick review episode with you guys, but I saw it shortly after, and I agree with everything you guys say. I also have it as a strong 4 out of 5. I just think, like, entertainment value, production value, the scale and the scope, and just how big everything feels. Like, even from the opening credits, it's just like, you know, it's a solid spectacle entertainment, and like you said, Tom Cruise at this point, he knows what he's doing. Very well done, and it's made a ton of money, and if it brings more people back to the theaters for other things, then that's great too. Like, it's just good for the movies to have this be as big as it is. So nice. That's a good choice. Was that the only one for you?
That's the only one I had. Yeah. It looks like it's made about $170 million. Excuse me, that was the budget. The opening weekend was $126 million, and gross so far is $534 million. So it's doing quite well. It looks like slightly over $1 billion worldwide. So it is out there.
Good.
Maybe they'll make another one.
God willing, no.
Looks like
Dylan.
It does look like we got some more Mission Impossibles coming down the road. So
final 2.
Yeah, so that's exciting.
Pottering it.
That's exciting. Okay. So over to me. So there's a little bit of a theme for my roundup this month, and it is 2021 revisited.
Honestly, Dylan, I kind of wanted to just pass on all of my categories and just to talk about these 2021 movies that you had missed.
Yep.
Because there were some that we loved.
I went out of my way to watch the 2021, the ones that you loved or just were highly acclaimed, so I could actually kind of finalize my 2021 list in my mind. So I went on a little streak with those, and to start with Best New Watch, there's really no other place that I can start other than The Worst Person in the World.
Oh, yes.
Which just was, I mean, it just totally blew me away. I mean,
it just wrecked you.
It was so, like, beautifully shot and acted and written, and the scene that you guys had talked about in the middle, that where they get the poster from, is just, I mean, I couldn't believe it. That was just remarkable. All of the interactions with with all the characters just feels so natural and so like honest, and I don't know. The performance by the lead, who is it?
Oh my God, she's amazing.
Renate Reinsve. I mean, unbelievable. Like, did not miss a single. She was just on from the
She should have gotten a nomination for sure.
Yeah.
Like 100%. I mean, yeah, I love the structure of it with like the 12 parts and the prologue and the epilogue, because it's such a long movie that really helped break it down into kind of consumable pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And then just the freaking heart-wrenching ending with like, I mean, oh my God, the stuff about death and like collecting things, and like just him talking about his life and her like reacting to it, and them talking about their relationship. Like, it was just great. And then where it ended up just made so much sense, and it pretty much instantly was like, that was an easy 5 stars. Yeah, definitely.
So is that your number one movie of 2021 then?
I currently have it as number 2. Okay. So it went right up there. But I mean, that's pretty good for only seeing it once and like immediately being like, oh yeah.
I do really quick just want to let people know that this is on Hulu.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
It is.
Oh no. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna have to watch that without my girlfriend.
Yeah, I mean,
she got upset, so it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Dune, which was my number 2, but like, I mean, come on, like, just come on. And it was interesting because I had a day off of work, so I was gonna do like a marathon of these, but I started with Worst Person in the World, and it was so like impactful and good. I honestly, like, I didn't think it was fair to like start another one right after, so I gave it like some time. But yeah, just fantastic. You guys were right. I wish I could have been on the review episode with you guys, and I totally see why. I think Adam, you had this. Did you both have this as your number 1? Really?
I had it as my number 4. Okay. Behind Licorice Pizza, Drive My Car, and The Green Knight.
Okay. Okay.
And I think I had a rotating list between that and probably some other ones you'll talk about.
Okay, so maybe we didn't do a review, but when we did our best of the year, we must have talked about it.
Definitely talked about it.
You guys gushing about it for sure. Like, oh, I should have seen it, and I should have. I wish I would have seen this in theaters. Are you kidding me, guys? How did you? I'm a little honestly. I'm a little upset that like
I saw it twice, so I
know, and you guys said it was really good, but like next time that something is this good, guys, drag me to the theater.
I'll give you a metaphorical or a figurative or literal slap in the face and say,
because I should have seen this in theaters, like just for that one scene. Like, God damn it.
Also, there's something about a movie that moves you this much, seeing it in a theater, and then just like kind of being able to sit there with it when the credits roll.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just completely distraction free. I mean, I definitely like there were a few times that I had to step away and like take a call or whatever. So it was kind of a broken up. I say it took me probably about 4 hours to watch this movie, but I mean, it didn't. I was still just like all in.
Yeah, clearly it didn't hurt anything.
No, it didn't detract from it. No. So I'm gonna keep it moving because I feel like I could talk about this for the whole episode. The next one from 2021 that I watched and I really liked, and it cracked my top 10. Was 9 Days, which is technically from 2020, but as we talked about,
it's a 2021 movie.
Yeah,
we don't talk about the detail there,
and it went a little under the radar. So I'm just gonna, if you haven't heard of 9 Days, it's a reclusive man conducts a series of interviews with human souls for a chance to be born. Really high concept souls talking to each other, all about life, and I can see that this, I mean, only has a 6.8 on IMDb. Like, I think some people just didn't get it or didn't like it, and I can understand that. But I found like every conversation to be fascinating, and it was rolling along at a solid 4 out of 5. And then that final scene bumped it up to a 4.5. I mean, almost brought it all the way up to a 5. I mean, that final scene was so dang good,
unbelievably good. I have this movie on my Vudu account now, and sometimes I just watch that.
Yeah.
I can't blame you. And I mean, Winston Duke everybody knocked it out of the park, but that man can freaking act. I mean, wow. And also a really great performance from Benedict Wong. Like subtle and nuanced and just kind of breaking away from his normal, like who he always plays in the Marvel movies. Yeah. Yeah, and I liked all the souls, and I just thought it was really well written, really well put together.
A non-comedic performance, mostly like Tony Hale, like kind of going against type and not what you'd expect. And Zazie Beetz is amazing.
Yeah, from
the moment that she's on screen, and then even Bill Skarsgård as Kane,
right,
and kind of that, like his portrayal and why things played out. Like I just thought it was really great. So that was, and that, let's see, I'm just bring it up real quick, just so I don't get it twisted. So that currently is my 7th favorite movie of the year, 9 Days. So cracked the top 10. I just thought it was really good. I'd be happy to watch it again anytime. And then the third one from 2021 that just squeaked into my top 10, because at this point I just have to say it, I'm a Sean Baker fanboy, and that is Red Rocket. Red mother bleeping Rocket, man.
It's so my
God. Like, I just it's unreal, like his style and his writing and like what stories he's able to tell so like brilliantly. Like just the people at the bottom of the totem pole, the people that you just walk by or drive by on the street, no one cares about them, their lives aren't going anywhere. There's so much like apathy and poverty, and it can be hard to watch, but also like that's the real life experience for a lot of people in this country. And it's just so refreshing to like I feel like when people talk about like Goddard and like new wave cinema with like in France, and like they took it to the streets and like told real stories, like I don't really feel that way about Goddard, but I feel that way about Sean Baker, where I'm like,
well, Sean Baker specifically cited the neo-realist movement in Italy in the 40s as like a huge influence.
And I can totally see it. It's like with Red Rocket, if you haven't heard of it, I'll just read the description real quick. And again, to emphasize like this type of stories that he's telling, Mikey Saber is a washed up porn star who returns to his small Texas hometown. Not that anyone really wants him back.
Also, amazing movie title.
Yes, Red Rocket, and I've now it has, the poster has the same font as Tangerine and the Florida Project, so he's developing a style and a trademark, and I'm all in that font on any movie poster. I'm gonna go see it now. Like he's earned that status for me. And yeah, I just a crazy good performance from a relative unknown Simon Rex, who's known for like stupid comedies. Yeah, like. And here he makes this turn as like that unbelievable, like kind of like we've all met someone like this.
Oh
like,
yeah.
He's like hyper confident. He's kind of like a fuckboy, like to use modern terms, like, but also just like
the parlance of our times, as Julian,
a guy who's going to come to your party and like steal something from your parents' room because he's just that skeezy guy. But also like everyone loves him and he can like get away with it. And then like even when you say like, oh, I hate that guy, everyone's like, yeah, I hate that guy too. But he still is invited to every.
He's always around.
That guy. Imagine that guy went off to be a porn star and then came back and was the exact same. And like, it's crazy because like I normally you want characters to like kind of change and like there to be an arc, but it's almost like he doesn't change at all.
That's the point of the story.
Some people just are the way they are, and like, oh man. Anyways, again, I could gush about this for a whole episode, but yeah. So those, all three of those from 2021 made my top 10. That's currently number 9. So yeah.
I had Worst Person in the World number 4, Red Rocket number 8, and 9 Days number 10.
Okay.
And so I also, one thing I want to say about Red Rocket is I strongly think that Simon Rex should have won Best Actor last year.
Yeah. No. I mean,
best male performance I saw all year, and I don't even think it's that close.
No, he was captivating. And another thing I just want to say before we move on, one of the reviews said this is Licorice Pizza's evil twin.
Okay,
and I like that description a lot.
Yeah,
yeah. All right. So those are my 3 best new watches, all 2021 movies, and you guys were right. So they're all really fantastic. All right, back to you, Nate. Sorry I took up a little time. God dang.
That's fine. And you know why it's fine? Is because 3. I didn't rewatch anything this month. So on to Adam.
Oh, all right. Wow. On to Adam.
It's funny you say that because I only rewatched one movie this month.
Was it good enough to be a best rewatch?
It was, because it's a favorite movie of mine. It was Constantine.
Nice. I saw you rated this. Yes. Nate, have you seen this yet?
Nope.
Oh, Such a hidden gem.
Pete Kinu.
Oh man, it's seriously. And really cool take on like religion and gods and demons, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's very interesting with like the dogma of all of it and how he's basically a guy who can go into hell or like fights demons and for the good of people basically, but it's slowly killing him obviously. But it's Keanu Reeves, Rachel Weisz, Shia LaBeouf, Jimon Hounsou, who you would recognize, Tilda Swinton, where'd it go? Peter Stormare, who you'd also recognize. Jose Zuniga, you'd recognize. There's a lot of people in this movie that you're like, oh, I know that person. Oh, I know that person. Oh, I know that person, and they're all good.
Okay, for sure. And also the specifically Tilda Swinton as Gabriel and Peter Stormare as Lucifer.
Yeah,
unreal portrayals of both of those characters, like all time. Maybe the best Lucifer, one of the like top 5 Lucifer portrayals, easy ever. And he's only on screen for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's just his costuming is great. The costuming for Gabriel's wonderful too. For Tilda Swinton,
God,
because she's just like, I mean, they always say like the angel Gabriel takes like many forms, right? So she just is.
Is this a DC comic?
It might be.
It could have. I think it could have been a Frank Miller or a DC comic. Like it has its roots in a graphic novel, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
But I mean, yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. Yeah,
it's a fantastic movie. Awesome. It's like kind of. I mean, it was made in 2005. It feels like peak 2000s of like our version of like what we'd call, I suppose, like B movies. Like, you know how the 80s have their set of like everything's like good but not great. This is like a very good but not great. But like if you've seen this movie, it almost feels like a cult movie that like everyone likes it. It's the action is good, the storyline's pretty solid. And that ropes in with like all the dogma stuff of religion and heaven versus hell versus,
and the way all that is portrayed somehow is like fresh. I mean, we're talking about some of the oldest stories and oldest characters that exist from the freaking Bible, and somehow Constantine in 2005 found like a fresh way to tell it, and it's just like kudos to them.
The 2 opening scenes are some random guy finding like a scepter that's basically all powerful, and then John Constantine, Keanu Reeves, like exorcising a demon out of a like little girl in like Argentina or something like that,
or even wherever it is, some like, you know, slum, or it might have even been a part of America, but just like up in her apartment with the mirror, and just the whole like and their portrayal of going to hell, and like
that's such an interesting take on how they even like get
really
there.
Cool.
There's the scene where they have to send Rachel Weisz's character, I think, to hell, and he has to like push her underneath like water, and she struggles to like fight it and try to like survive, and he just stands there over her like, you wanted this, like I'm like, doing what you told me to do. It's fantastic.
Cool. That's awesome. I'm glad we
got
like, any chance to
4 out of 5 for me.
Constantine.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. My rewatches were also both from 2021, pretty quick because we've talked about these movies extensively. Licorice Pizza, I rewatched for the first time. It won me over again. The scene with Bradley Cooper is even better than I remembered, and the scene in the bar with Sean Penn, and like that one in the theater was kind of felt a little all over the place when they're just like drunk and kind of like yelling at each other across the bar, and you're like, oh god, like okay. But this time
once you kind of wrap your head around the themes.
Yes, exactly. And now it's like everything. I mean, God, you know, Paul Thomas Anderson, you know, never doubt him, because so detailed, so fantastic. So that I rewatched, and then also I rewatched The Green Knight.
Okay,
because I figured.
I wondered if you were kind of like after Worst Person in the World, you were like, okay, I gotta like decide on my top 10 again.
Yes. So that being said, I still have The Green Knight at number 1. I still have it as a 5-star. I think every time I watch it, I just feel like I don't even know.
You had that as a 4.5. That's why I thought Worst Person in the World was at number 1.
No, I bumped it to a 5. I had mentioned that at some point because I rewatched it again and was just like, I have to admit that at least for me, this is a 5. Like, and now like I watched it again last night. It's like now it's reached the point where I feel like every freaking line of dialogue is like it means something. Like maybe I'm like too far in the rabbit hole, but man, that freaking movie, like. Yeah. Every time I watch it, I think it's more brilliant, and I get it even more, and I'm all in on that. So currently, just to refresh, not the whole top 10, but my top 5 are Green Knight number 1, Worst Person in the World number 2. Those are the only 5 stars that I had from last year. Then it goes Dune number 3, Licorice Pizza 4, and then Power of the Dog still holding on to number 5.
Also my 5.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where it all shook out. So Green Knight just barely holds on. But I mean, that's still a great top 5 across the board. And I think that Licorice Pizza feels like the type of movie that if I rewatch it again, it's going to find a way up to a 5. Like it feels like if I keep watching it, I'm going to fall in love with it.
Eventually, you'll just like dismiss the one bad thing.
Yep.
Yep. Like perfection beyond that, but we don't count that anymore. So perfection.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right, back to you, Nate, for Dud of the Month.
Dud of the Month. I've got 2.
Oh, 2 duds.
One is kind of a classic that I thought was not good, and the other one was the first movie I have ever walked out of in a movie theater.
Whoa. Okay.
So truly terrible. Just truly god awful.
Mostly one of the most boring things I've ever seen. Okay. Like, it's really bad. I mean, I've seen like worse, like put together movies. I mean, like the acting and like the set and like cost, like all the technically, it's very well done.
Oh man, I'm dying with anticipation.
Terrible storytelling and it's boring as shit.
Okay.
And that is a movie from this year. I saw it over at the Main from Terrence Davies, who's like a very well-regarded British director who made a lot of movies in like the 80s and 90s, I think, and hasn't made as many recently. I think it's called Benediction.
Okay.
And
right now.
Benediction is the story of soldier and poet Siegfried Sassoon, who was decorated for bravery on the Western Front and is best remembered for his angry and compassionate poems about the First World War, which brought him public and critical acclaim. Now, this sounds fascinating to me.
Yeah,
it does. Yes. Sounds wonderful.
That, unfortunately, is basically the first 20 minutes of like a 2-hour and 15-minute movie.
Oof. Really? Okay.
Ooh, 2-hour and 17-minute movie.
Okay.
And the rest of it, this guy was also gay.
Okay.
The rest of the movie, although I can't speak to the end, there were like 20 minutes left when I left, I think. Maybe half an hour. The rest of it is just a series of relationships with like narcissistic, dramatic men that he has. And we're never really introduced, like they aren't characters. It's just some like annoying, mean guy that he's with, and all of a sudden they're together now, and the guy's just got something to bitch about. And like we get that for like 30 minutes, and then the next 30 minutes it's like a different guy. And they just like cycle through them, and all of a sudden I was like, what is this movie even about?
Yeah.
And also it does a very bad job of telling you like how much time has gone by.
Okay.
Because at first, like, he's speaking out against the war, so they send him to some like place for like wounded soldiers or whatever to basically like get him away from public speaking and just be like, and then he meets one dude up there who's like actually kind of interesting, but then that guy like goes back to the war or something and dies, and then he's out of there all of a sudden, but they don't ever tell us why, or like that they don't even like make it a thing that he left. All of a sudden he's just like at dinner one night, like in town, or maybe in town. I can't even tell. It's just like in a restaurant. I don't know if it's a restaurant in the middle of a field or in the middle of London. I have no idea. And
could be anywhere.
Right. And then he meets some artist guy,
some asshole, like clearly
some asshole, really. And then they're together for a while. And then like he's with some other guy later. And then all of a sudden they're like talking about Hitler. And I'm like, wait, is it like 1935 now? Like what is like,
how when did we get here?
Yeah. And it's just that. And then there's a moment at the beginning of the movie where he's like an old man, and then it goes back. It does a little bit of like a Saving Private Ryan kind of thing. And then with 30 minutes left, they go back to him being an old man. And I was just like, oh, thank God the movie's almost over. And then it cut back again to like a different old relationship. And that was instantly, I was like, fuck this, I'm gone. And I just got up and left.
I wish I had been there. Just you'd be like,
and how did it
flip a table and be like, I'm fucking done with this? And just
how did that feel, Nate? How did it feel walking out? Was it empowering?
Yeah.
Were you like, yeah, screw that movie? Like, I'm glad I did this.
It felt weird because I was in like the third to back row, and it was at the main, so it was like you have to walk, like the door is right by the back row. It's not like one of the side things at like bigger theaters.
Yeah.
So there was one guy sitting like basically in the seat right by the door. And I was gonna feel weird about it as I got up, because I was just like, I'm gonna have to walk past that guy. And I don't know why it made me feel weird. I think it was just because he was right next to the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you make eye contact?
No.
Did he just like shake his head sadly?
I don't know. I mean, he was just watching the movie. And then I left, and it was weird because like it was like there was nobody in the hallway.
And
it
felt surreal.
Yeah, it was very strange.
That's unfortunate.
Man. So
sorry,
it's currently
I
gave it 1 star because the lead actor is actually pretty good, but I just don't give a shit about the rest of it.
All right, what's the other one you had?
The other one, so also Benediction is my worst movie of 2022 so far at this point.
Interesting.
And I hope it stays that way.
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
for your own sake, for your own mental health.
Yeah, exactly. The other one is actually a Robert Altman movie that I had heard really good things about, and I think it's a Robert Altman movie. I get him and Sidney Lumet mixed up sometimes.
You do.
Yes. It is a Robert Altman movie.
Okay.
It's The Player from 1992.
Oh yeah, you told me. Okay, yes, you told me about that.
And just again, so do you know what the
setup?
Do you guys know what The Player
set up
is?
how famous
I
it is.
don't.
It's a very famous movie. And I'll read the synopsis here too. A Hollywood studio executive is being sent death threats by a writer whose script he rejected, but which one? Which is a kind of interesting premise, and it's conceived in like it's a satire of like a parody of Hollywood. Like it's like they're making fun of Hollywood a lot. And what makes it different from something like Hail Caesar or several other movies that have been kind of about Hollywood is that this movie, all the famous people, like it exists in a world. It exists in our world, I should say. Like Hail Caesar is the Coen Brothers movie about like Hollywood in the like 40s or 50s.
But everyone's fake.
And everyone's a fake person. Even the movie stars are fake people. It's not our world. This is very much our world. The first 30 minutes of this movie is actually really funny because they keep like he hears all these pitches, and then every single time somebody's like needs like kind of a young female lead, and they're just like, what about Julia Roberts? Like every single movie is just like, could we get Julia Roberts? Could we get Julia Roberts? Could we like they do a good job. And there's something where somebody's constantly like, oh, it's like this meets this. And then the exec or something is like, oh, never saw either of them. And that guy's played by Fred Ward, actually, who just died in Tremors. Yeah. That's actually why I watched this. But then you actually see like a bunch of people. This movie has the most cameos ever. I mean, it's just like they're just at lunch at a restaurant, and I want to say Angelica Houston is eating lunch with John Cusack.
Oh,
just like over there,
just like casually
at a table, and then they just like pass them, and they're just like, "Oh, hey," and then they're hi, and like that's kind of it. But they're like playing themselves, and they're in it for like 2 minutes, and then so just like listing some of the people that show up in the movie. I need to find the right spot to where they start listing the cameos. So like. Harry Belafonte's in this movie, Gary Busey, Cher, John Cusack, Brad Davis, Paul Dooley, Peter Falk, Louise Fletcher, Scott Glenn, Jeff Goldblum, Elliot Gould, Angelica Houston, Bruce Willis,
Jack Lemmon,
Patrick Swayze, Nick
McDowell.
Nolte is in this. Malcolm McDowell. What's her name? Julia Roberts is also in this movie.
Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, they all just show up as themselves. And so basically it's really funny right away. And then it's just like Tim Robbins plays the lead. And then he's just like trying to figure out who killed him. And like nobody's really a character. And it's just super boring. Like it kind of tries to be a noir, but it's just like one of the most, it's so dull. And also they do this thing where they constantly like Altman like turns the camera to show like a poster of old Hollywood, and the title of the movie will be like exactly what everybody's feeling or like what's happening in the movie right now, which is like kind of cute, but he does it like 15 times. And eventually I'm just like, cool, man, somebody just had vertigo. Like it, you know, like it doesn't, it ceases to be interesting. And I had to watch this like 3 times just to finish it.
Yeah.
And I gave it a 2 because the first 30 minutes is legitimately really good, I think, but then I just stopped caring.
You think maybe in 1992, the first 30 minutes and all the cameos, it was just so different that it probably blew people away to start with, and they just
maybe. But I also just think this is one of those things where, like, insider Hollywood people are probably just like, this is perfect.
Okay.
But I do struggle a little bit to understand why people who aren't like super in the industry really care about or like this movie very much.
Okay.
It's funny you say all that because it was nominated for 3 Oscars. So
well, of
best
course
director,
it's about Hollywood.
Yeah. Best film editing, and then here's the one that like really gets me based on what you've said is best writing / screenplay based on material previously produced or published. So like,
I mean, it doesn't like the dialogue's really snappy.
Okay, that makes more
sense.
But
it's just it's so boring. Like,
yeah.
Exactly.
Well, for a boring movie, you'd think like best writing. Like what? How?
Right. Dylan, Richard E. Grant is in it, and he's really good.
Okay, cool.
I mean, he writes something that's like his whole thing is he's one of the guys pitching his story, and his whole thing is like, no movie stars. It has to have a sad ending. And then, of course, we get to the end of the movie, and they show you like the final scene from his movie that he's been pitching the whole time. And he's like, and the woman has to die. Like, this is unnegotiable. And then you get to the end of the movie, and it's Bruce Willis and Julia Roberts, and Bruce Willis saves Julia Roberts. And then the one woman who was in the studio who was just like, what happened to that idea? And he was just like, yeah, we showed it to a test screening, and they hated it is what happened. People like this. And then the woman complains about it for like 10 more seconds, and then somebody just fires her.
Okay.
So like the final scene actually is pretty good. Basically, the stuff that I just hated was all the like who's trying to kill me.
The whodunit part.
That part is so bad.
Okay.
So what did you give this, a 2?
2.
Okay. Would you actually recommend seeing it just to like know what it is, or is it just like it's not worth it?
I feel like if anything, I just want to watch the first 30 minutes and then turn it off.
Watch the first 30 minutes and then just turn it off.
Okay.
Watch the beginning because it's just like really rapid paced, like people moving around, Hollywood execs, like pitch here, a pitch here, a pitch here.
Yeah.
And it works. And then once the thing starts going, it kind of sucks.
Fair enough.
Okay.
All right. That's those are 2 very good duds. On to you, Adam.
Yeah, and just to not piggyback, but that one is on HBO as well.
That's also where I watched it.
So
okay.
In case you heard what I said and decided you wanted to watch it.
That sounds fantastic.
Well, if I want to watch the first 30 minutes, if I'm looking
love
for something
dull
to do,
whodunits.
like I'll check it out.
Or if you've already seen it and you disagree with me and you're like, oh, it's on HBO Max, I'll watch it again.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people do like this movie.
Everyone loves self-indulgent Hollywood.
Yes.
I mean, it's got a 7.5 on IMDb, so
yeah,
a lot of people like it. But
I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah. So my dud of the month, I tortured myself and caught up on 2. This is a franchise. We caught up on the next.
Oh, I know what this is.
The first 2 movies in the franchise, which the first one is passable and fine for all things considered, fine. The second one is hot garbage, and the third one is even worse somehow. This is Jurassic World Dominion is my dud of the month. The thing that really gets me, and I'm going to spoil this because who gives a fuck about this
No
movie?
one is. We were going to do an episode, and then we saw the reviews.
You can tell when Adam's upset when he starts kind of rubbing the side of his head a little bit.
The temples. It's just the stupidity. So in this movie, the logic is, every other Jurassic Park movie, Jurassic World movies, we've made a bigger, worse dinosaur.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know. But the first movie, we made a big dinosaur. It destroyed the park. We made another dinosaur, tried to sell it on the black market, killed everybody. Like just absolutely destroyed this multi-billion-dollar.
Which one do they try to sell? I've only seen the first one and now the new one. So which movie do they try to sell a dinosaur on the black market?
So the first one, the major dinosaur is called the Indominus Rex.
And we're talking not about the first 90s Jurassic Park.
No, this is Jurassic World, the first one. This is the Chris Pratt trilogy.
I haven't seen that
Chris Pratt universe of Jurassic Park.
All things considered, the first one's not horrible, but they call it the Indominus Rex. It's essentially invisible because they added cuttlefish, they added cuttlefish DNA to it, which can assume the background. It also like somehow stops like emitting heat because it can do that apparently, so it doesn't show up on like their heat sensors. So it's basically an invisible massive dinosaur that's just murdering people. And then that's the first one. In the second one, they create a new dinosaur. They call it the Indoraptor. So they basically took everything that was awful and therefore great, about the Indominus Rex, put it into a Velociraptor, which has always been like the biggest bad guy in these movies. And then we're like, all right, so you can train it to do stuff because we've been able to train these other Velociraptors, not really, to be able to follow orders. So we'll just like sell it to governments and like to like Russian billionaires who want to like go murder people.
And you'll be shocked to learn that it escapes and turns loose on its captors.
Who would have known?
Have you ever seen any Jurassic Park movie?
Smooth sail with like no tariffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they all made a bunch of money and nothing ever went wrong.
Yeah. Oh my God. So that's those two. This one, they decide that instead of creating monsters and things of just true devastation to people, we're going to environmentally save the world with dinosaurs. However, the company that's saving the world built like or created giant locusts, like literally like fucking like this big.
Yeah.
And they're decimating America's food supply, everyone's food supply. They're like, oh, like they're just eating everything. So like
Adam,
the whole world's
this
gonna
is a bigger
starve.
story. This is biblical.
Yeah, exactly. So what they do at the end of this movie is that's the whole like crux. That's the biggest issue, despite the fact that there's other dinosaurs just out in nature, like fucking with cities and like eating people and doing whatever they want.
Also probably fucking.
Yeah, probably. Because there's just a billion different dangerous dinosaurs that are just eating people out in like the woods or in a city. And they're just like, oh yeah, that happens. So you just gotta just grab a gun, just make sure you run. It's fine. It's like not at all. So they end up getting to kill all of the locusts, and they're like, this is just an ecological disaster. I can't believe we let this happen, but like we saved the day by getting rid of just the locusts. And it's like any one dinosaur in the wild is a fucking ecological disaster. Like Velociraptors, now the top of the food chain, it's higher than us. It's going to eat all the deer, it'll kill bears, it'll like every major thing. Like a hippo couldn't take this thing down. So like what the fuck? You saved one thing, one ecological disaster. The rest of the world is now an ecological disaster. What the fuck are you doing? Kill everything. Burn it to the ground.
So how was the cinematography?
So it's terrible. It's just
the score.
How was the acting?
So actually, cinematography wise, they do a lot of things. They try to emulate Jurassic Park 1, where like when they go to the preserve and they see like the Brachiosaurus and like everyone's at the watering hole and there's Triceratops and like look at how peaceful and awesome and cool this is. When you actually
every single movie,
the magic of the dinosaurs is just like, oh, that's awesome.
They just try to emulate Spielberg every time, and nobody can.
Yeah, nobody can. So they try it again in this movie, but they try it like 19, 20, 30 times. They just like CGI a big dinosaur into something. And then they're like, oh, look at how good that looks. It looks like garbage. It looks like absolute ass.
Interesting.
So just the cinematography is terrible from that perspective because they're like, oh, now it's in a forest. Look at this.
We don't need to really waste time on the cinematography. So, Dylan was being
I know, but it's a point I wanted to make.
So it's as bad as people say, is what you're saying.
This movie is 2.5 hours long.
Good
for no fucking reason. They also do this thing in this movie where every time they're like fighting a dinosaur they're trying to get away from because it's separate storylines, with basically the same thing of, oh look, a dangerous dinosaur, we need to run. Every time that happens, they like slightly get away, and then oh no, the door is locked, and we got to run away again, just like a little bit further. And then oh, the ceiling tower trying to get through is broken, can't get there, got to run a little bit further. All of those scenes are like 10 to 15 minutes long. And it makes no goddamn sense. They brought back the guy who plays Dr. Alan Grant.
Yeah, they brought all the Laura Dern.
Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, Sam Neill.
Jeff Goldblum, Laura Dern. Yeah. Jeff Goldblum's good. I liked the scene, like the motorcycle chase was kind of cool, and those are the only real positives I can say about the movie.
That's it. It's horrible. Don't see it. Don't waste your money. Chris Pratt is just fine.
I'm shocked. All of those characters are just super weak.
It's just bad. Bryce Dallas Howard, Christina Hendricks.
I'm surprised you saw this name.
We reviewed it, or we were going to review it. We never did. I thought we were going to review it, and so I went to go see this movie, and it's bad. I didn't hate it as much as Adam, also because I probably went into it just expecting it to be bad.
I knew it was going to be bad. The second one's bad.
I'm surprised. Yeah, when you said you walked out of a movie, I would have expected it to be this one. You stuck out 2.5 hours here, but you couldn't go the distance with Benediction.
Like, I mean, this movie is not boring.
Okay,
bad.
But
that's true. That's true.
So I gave
Benediction
Jurassic
is a snooze fest.
Yeah.
I gave Jurassic World a 3 because it's passable. It's fine. I gave Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom a 2, and I gave Jurassic World Dominion a half star.
Damn.
I gave it a 2.
Taking it to the woodshed.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good
Just
for
like they didn't do the dinosaurs. So
that's got to be one of the lowest ranked movies you've ever reviewed on Letterboxd.
Yeah,
half
I
star.
think
I mean, we didn't even go that low when we discussed what our star rankings are. I don't think. I think we just started at 1.
I had it at 1 star for a little while, and upon
grid.
It's off the grid.
Upon just like ruminating,
You can't see it because it's been spliced with cuttlefish DNA, so it blends in.
So that's it's just I wasted time on like another new movie, and I was like, all right, cool, it'll be fine, and it was complete waste. So we can move on. But,
that's good.
Jurassic World.
Both. God, you guys are killing it with the dud of the month.
Yeah.
Well, and now things might get a little controversial because my dud of the month, and this is calling it a dud. I gave it 3 stars.
Oh, I know
what this is going to be now.
But I'm sorry, guys. But my dud of the month is Come On.
Yeah, it's fine.
I couldn't Come On. I couldn't. It took me 3 times to finish this movie, and the third time just felt like work. I didn't connect with the uncle. Nephew, the mom is dealing with the mental issues of the husband, so he needs to I kept waiting for that to like go somewhere, and I felt like it never did. And also I didn't find I loved all of the kids that they interviewed. Whenever it went to a part where they were interviewing a kid, I was like, this is awesome. And then we went back to the main kid, and he just wasn't doing anything. I kind of found him just really annoying. And I don't know, man. So, like, I get why some people really liked it, and it is very sweet and heartfelt, but it just wasn't working for me at all.
I think it's the type of movie. I saw this in a theater without distractions.
Okay.
And I think that would help because this feels like a movie that while you're watching it, you can just kind of, like, check your phone because, like, there's not much of a plot. But I feel like having those distractions would hurt.
I think that's fair.
I mean, you also, if you saw it in a theater, you might have felt the same way, but I do think that made a difference for me. I did really like this. I can see, though, how it would just bore some people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so hard to watch the young kid because he sucks so much as a character. Great acting. He's very real. Annoying.
He's very real, and I don't know. To your point, Nate, it just felt like, like I'd be watching, and then I'd kind of just like get bored. Like they'd be having a conversation about life or about kids or about growing up. And then like I'd look at my phone and I'd look back up and be like, okay, now another phone call to the mom. They're talking about kids and life and growing up. And then like more and that's like, oh, here's some interviews. Okay, cool. I'm loving these scenes. Okay, cool. Oh, and now we're back with the kid and the guy. They're on the bus. They're talking about life and growing up and kids. And it's just, I don't know, man. Maybe someday when I have kids, I can revisit it. Because when I was reading the reviews, I saw a lot of people that were like, who were parents who said it was like, this is the type of stuff we think about and talk about like all the time. And like, what a great portrayal of like what it's like. And maybe I'll relate to it. But yeah, for me, just that was the dud of the month. I mean, again, I've only talked about the bad things. Like, it is very heartfelt. There are elements that I really
you gave
like.
it a 3. It's not like you thought
it's
it was
good.
awful.
I just compared to the other 2021 movies that I saw, it wasn't doing it for me. So that's my dud of the month. We'll keep it going. All right. And then lastly, ones that we just need to talk about.
Yep. This is going a little longer than normal. I'm cutting out half of these.
Okay, yeah,
the other
that's
two
fair.
we could.
Mine'll be quick.
One specifically.
Well, I had to gush about my 3 movies, and then Adam had to destroy the Jurassic Park franchise. So that takes time, and it takes time.
Yeah, it does. It's fine. I just, I think because there's one that I had on here, Dylan, that you and I could talk about for a long time. So I don't think we need to.
I'll keep mine concise.
I'm just going to recommend 2 other 2022 movies that I saw that I think people should also go check out. The first one shocked me at how much I liked this, and I'm actually going to rewatch it once it comes onto streaming, which it will in July, and that is the Bob's Burgers movie.
Okay.
I had never seen an episode. I'd seen one episode of Bob's Burgers, like randomly at somebody's house, like with no context, in the middle of season 3 or something, whatever. And I didn't know anything. And then I also had tried to watch the pilot a few times and hated like the opening 2 scenes.
Okay.
Which I still do. But then I watched the movie and then I was like, I need to watch the show. but I watched the rest of the pilot and liked the second half of it. But I rewatched the entire pilot and was like, nope, I just really hate these two scenes.
Okay,
and they were the first two that I ever saw, and I was just like, I'm not gonna like this show. But I really enjoyed the movie. It's really sweet. It's got 2 songs that I cannot get out of my head and keep listening to.
Okay.
Yep.
It's a nice movie, and I gave it a 3.5, and definitely recommend it to people. And the other
I saw
one
that as well, and I think that's a fair rating.
Oh, you did see the Bob's Burgers movie?
I did, and I was convinced that there would be an end of the credits scene. Me and the person who I saw it with, who may or may not be listening, and so we waited, and everybody left the theater, and there was an end of the credits scene.
Nice.
Ultimate vindication. Ultimate. Do you know what it was, or did you?
No,
not?
I did not stay.
Oh God, I'll tell you what it is after the episode.
Okay,
it's good. It's pretty funny.
The other one I want to recommend is very different from the Bob's Burgers movie, which is a small indie movie called Montana Story, which I think you guys would both like. Adam, I'd recommend this to you even a little bit more than Dylan.
Okay.
Okay.
Looking it up right now.
Yeah, Dylan, don't watch it ever.
All right. I'll just let you guys talk.
Yeah, we have no crossover in taste at all. It's purely a me.
I said you'd both like it, but if I had to recommend it to only one of you,
I appreciate it.
It would be Adam.
What is the Montana Story?
Follows 2 estranged siblings as they return home to the sprawling ranch they once knew and loved. Ooh. And I checked this out because, well, it's getting pretty good reviews, but Haley Lou Richardson is in it, who I really, really like. She has been in Split, Edge of 17, Columbus, which is one of my favorite movies, and After Yang.
Okay, I still need to see that.
Yeah. And I like her a lot, and she's finally like playing a sort of like a grown-up here.
Oh, okay. I recognize her. Yep.
Yeah. And basically something happened between the two of them and their father a long time ago, and their father is dying. And she left home like after the event, and she has not seen anybody in her family since.
Ooh.
And so then she's back kind of surprisingly, and there's this friction. She has an amazing line in this movie about like betrayal and like the circles of hell that she just like delivers to somebody, which just made me like, it's amazing. It's one of the best delivered lines I've seen all year. I really like this movie. It's just a really like throwback to like small cast. It's all just like in a house or like on the land in Montana, and just small family drama with some stuff to work through and like really good acting. I definitely, it's slow. I mean, if you're not an indie movie family drama kind of person, it's not going to be for you. But if you are, then I would definitely recommend checking this out.
Okay.
I don't think it's playing anywhere yet.
From what I can see, at least I mean,
you can rent it on
Prime,
Prime, Apple TV, YouTube, whatever, for like $7.
Yeah. But you don't have to talk about the other ones, but what were the other ones you were going to mention?
I was going to mention A Bigger Splash.
Okay.
Which is a movie from a few years ago with Tilda Swinton, Ralph Fiennes, and Dakota Johnson.
Okay.
And then I finally watched Marie Antoinette.
Oh, Sofia Coppola?
Yeah.
And?
I kind of want to watch it again because it wasn't at all what I thought it was going to be.
Okay. Yeah.
I kept waiting for her to start doing awful things, and then the movie's kind of about how like she was just a person who got thrown into this horrible environment dominated by men, and for some reason like she's the one who became the face of like the British or the French like monarchy or aristocracy, and like
everything that was wrong
and everything. Like it's weird.
And she just got thrown in, and she was just a pretty girl that got chosen to be part of it. And
she like never left Versailles and had no clue about anything.
Just like day drank and partied all day, kind of. I mean, by those standards, it's like, I don't know.
And then Jason Schwartzman as the like, he just made me laugh by looking at him in that. But I want to watch it again because I gave it a 3 at first, just because, like I said, it just wasn't what I was expecting, and it took me like the whole movie to realize that. Like what it was going to be. But I like the idea behind the story. So I want to watch it again, kind of knowing what it is and what it's trying to say.
Yeah, I would recommend watching it again. I think I'm with you where I've only seen it once, but when it started, I was like, oh, okay, this definitely wasn't what I was expecting. But by the end, I kind of got used to it. And then the more and more I thought about it afterwards, I was like, okay, it was almost like there were parts where it was almost kind of like a vibes hangout movie. Like there's kind of a part in the middle where it's just kind of like she doesn't know what to do with all this like money and attention, and so she just kind of like starts partying with her friends, and it just kind of is about like, yeah, like she's just a young girl that happens to, unbeknownst to her, she's about to be a historical figure and like represent everything that was wrong with like rich people.
I mean, really good cast too. Kirsten Dunst, Jason Schwartzman, Steve Coogan, Rip Torn.
Yeah,
in this movie. Molly Shannon. What's like Jamie Dornan and Tom Hardy show up for a little while.
Yep.
And so does is Rose Byrne in this movie?
I believe so. And the scene when she gets passed off to the friend, like when they meet at the border at the beginning, and she just like,
well, that's right away in the movie.
Right away, yeah. They just like take all of her stuff, and then she walks across the border, and the French just give her all new stuff, and that's just her life now. And she rides away. Say
goodbye to your dog and your clothes and your mom.
Yeah, yeah. Like it's weird.
Yeah, it's an interesting movie. I definitely want to watch it again with like knowing what to expect, because it made me think a lot when it was over. I still don't know if it's a movie that's just more interesting to talk about and think about and like conceptualize over, but I need to watch it again. I did like the soundtrack choices with like modern music with like late 18th century France.
Yeah. It looks like it's streaming on Hulu, so there's your opportunity.
That's where I watched that.
So, there we go.
Nice. All right, over to you, Adam.
Yeah, my the one I just have to talk about. I can't remember if we really mentioned this at all, but this is the new Adam Sandler movie, Hustle.
Ah, yes.
I think we did talk about it.
We did. We have an episode on this.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is probably of the ones I watched this month the most interesting to talk about. It's I mean, it's your standard sports fair movie, but it's a basketball movie. As a person who's slowly gotten into basketball over the last couple of years, because thank God the Bucks have been good.
Yeah,
we won a championship. Thank you, Giannis, for being the best player in all the NBA.
Johnson has everything. We have nothing.
Yeah, I mean, his movie's coming out, I think last weekend or this weekend or something like that. The Giannis movie, but it's just, as somebody who's starting to like basketball, it's just starting to get into it and understand it. It was a lot of fun to watch. Juancho Hernan-Gomez was fantastic as an actor. Obviously, I knew he was a part of the T-Wolves for a while. Obviously, Anthony Edwards is in there, who's current member of the T-Wolves and basically all-star.
He's got some screen presence.
Yeah.
He's got something going on.
Yeah, just seeing all the talking heads, there's like some of the people in the league and like make up of their own fresh story on how some foreigners get into the NBA and that kind of thing. It was just a really, really cool little movie. And I mean, I'm somebody who likes soccer and international soccer, so I'm a lot more vested in transfer windows and why some players go some places and for how much money and all that kind of stuff, versus seeing how the European game of basketball translates to the American game. It's usually the American game of soccer, how that translates to the European game. So
kind of flipping it.
Just kind of flipping it and seeing how that goes, because clearly like soccer dominates the world stage, but we're starting to see a lot of foreign players get to the NBA, and they are absolute all-stars. Luka Doncic, and
let's
Giannis, like a ton of those people. So it was really cool.
Well, and let's be honest, even for someone like me who has been a basketball fan for a long time, the scouting aspect and like specifically going overseas and what they are looking for and what the red flags are, I've never delved into that, and I found that fascinating. I mean, so I'm with you.
The more you understand a game, the more you like the game. Like obviously that comes from a lot of like growing up and playing a sport. Those are the sports you follow later in life, football basically. And then if you choose like baseball or soccer or basketball in this instance, like that's where that comes from. So learning more about a sport will always help invest you in the sport. When I lived with my roommates, one of my friends was a huge basketball and baseball fan, so I learned a bunch about that. When I lived with you guys, I learned a lot about basketball and baseball. So I've gained more of an appreciation for those sports than I would have had, because it used to be like, oh, there's no defense in the NBA, who cares? Like, I used to be one of those people. So diving into it and learning a little bit about it, even though this is a quote unquote fake story, I just really liked it, and it's a solid movie. It's a solid Adam Sandler movie that's not just like a dumb comedy. So
it's not an Adam Sandler movie.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
He's much better when he's playing serious roles. In my opinion. All right, and then that just leaves me for I just have two that I want to talk about. They are not from 2021, but I just had to mention them. The first one was recommended by a highly trusted source, and that is 2014's Love and Mercy, which
I
is
still haven't seen
basically,
this.
it's the Brian Wilson
I know what
movie.
it is.
Yeah, if you don't remember it, in the 60s, Beach Boys leader Brian Wilson struggles with emerging psychosis as he attempts to craft his avant-garde pop masterpiece. In the 80s, he's a broken, confused man under the 24-hour watch of shady therapist Dr. Eugene Landy.
Wow.
So this is your musical biopic, and I know that we've talked about how there was a whole bunch of these in like the mid to late 2000s, and the formula really got ground into the dirt. And basically, like, the whole idea of like start to finish chronological order, like let's just show all the big events, like that's so played out. And what I really loved about this in particular is the structure that they employ to tell that. Is it feels different and fresh because you go back and forth between young Brian Wilson, played by Paul Dano, and old Brian Wilson, played by John Cusack. And I mean, John Cusack, it's one of my favorite Cusack performances in a long time. I thought it was really good. But Paul Dano, my God, like,
Paul Dano's an amazing actor.
Like, who did he piss off in the Academy to the fact that he's never won an Oscar? I mean, like, what does this man have to do? Because I'm pretty sure I can think of 4 incredible performances off the top of my head. I mean, this guy's been killing it. He plays Brian Wilson, so you think like, LA music scene, like this is the type of role that people get nominated and win Oscars for. And it's like, come on, man. He was so good as a young Brian Wilson, so good when he starts to lose it. The way that they show that with the music and the music effects, the visuals, like it was really immersive. And I, as a Beach Boys fan, and specifically like a kind of vinyl collector guy, like Pet Sounds is a huge deal. And like the scenes in the studio when they were crafting that, the scenes with the other Beach Boys when they were like, yeah, like I don't really get it, and like shouldn't we just keep singing about surfing? And like they have a great line where they're like, we're not even surfers, and real surfers don't like our music. Like, there's really great like moments like that. So I just thought it was fantastic. And then it has, I mean, it's a real life story. And the triumphant ending just totally worked for me, and it really made me want to re-listen to his older stuff and his newer stuff, particularly the album that came out, Love and Mercy, which he toured for and stuff. It just really, really sucked me right back into that whole world, and that was fantastic. So that was Love and Mercy from 2014, worth it for Paul Dano alone.
On
and
HBO.
Then, it's on HBO. Perfect.
Yep.
And then the last one, you've been talking about it many times, Nate. I finally sat down and watched it, and that is Pariah on HBO.
Okay.
It's definitely as good as you say. Just so well written, such a tight script. Like you've mentioned, it's only like 84 minutes long.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it tackles like such big themes, and it does it well, like better than most movies I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just bam, bam, bam. Great scene, great scene, great scene. All the performances were great. The main actor, what was her name? Adepero Oduye as Alike. She was incredible. But specifically for me, the parents. Her dad played by Charles Parnell and her mom played by Kim Wayans. I thought they were just like, their portrayal of parents in that situation blew me away. I thought they were both like, you kind of hate them, but you also kind of sympathize, but like you can tell they love their kids, but also they're like so judgmental. Like it was hard to watch, but like I'm glad I watched it. And you were right, Nate. I gave that was a 4.5. I was going to just give it a 4, but then I just thought about how much ground it covers and the amount of time and how personal and intimate everything feels. And then the ending with the poetry, and just, it's perfect. There's some lines that I won't ruin, but like some great all-time lines in that final poem.
I think my Letterboxd review is just one of those lines.
Yes. Seriously, really good, really sweet, heartfelt, just great movie. So 4.5, and I just wanted to say that I finally watched it. You were right. I had to give you the shout out there.
Awesome. I really enjoyed this roundup because you watched like 4 movies that I love for the first time, and you liked all of them.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. All right. Well, this was fun. Whose turn is it to put a wrap on the show?
I've got it.
All right, Adam, take it away.
You shouldn't keep souvenirs of a killing. You shouldn't have been that sentimental.